The cursor blinks mercilessly on James's laptop screen. 2:47 a.m. His apartment is a graveyard of takeout containers and energy drink cans. The glow from his monitor carves harsh shadows under his eyes as he types furiously, deleting, retyping, his frustration mounting with each keystroke. James, you know that feeling when your entire life crumbles in a single day? When everything you thought you knew gets ripped away and you're left staring at the wreckage wondering how you got here. James's fingers hover over the keyboard. On screen, an email draft to his estranged uncle Theodore, the man who'd stolen his father's business empire 15 years ago through manipulation and legal loopholes. James, my name is James Delacroix, and this is the story of how one mistyped email address destroyed my enemy and saved my soul. James begins typing again, his words sharp with years of suppressed rage. Theodore, I know what you did to my father. I know about the forged documents, the bribes, the way you turned his own board against him. I've spent 15 years gathering evidence and I'm done staying quiet. You stole everything from him, our family business, his reputation, his will to live. But I'm not the broken kid you remember. I'm coming for you and I'm going to take back everything you stole, piece by piece. James hovers over the send button, his hand trembling with exhaustion and fury. Without double-checking the recipient, he clicks send. Cut to James. I should have been more careful. But rage makes you sloppy. And sometimes being sloppy changes everything. The next morning, James jolts awake to his phone buzzing incessantly. 11:23 a.m. Sunlight streams through his blinds as he fumbles for his device, expecting Theodore's lawyers or worse. Instead, there's an email from v.hartwell@gmail.com, a name he's never seen before. Vivian's email. Dear James, I believe you sent this email to the wrong person. I'm Vivian Hartwell and I don't know anyone named Theodore. But I felt compelled to respond because your pain reminded me of my own story. 23 years ago someone stole everything from me too. I understand the rage that keeps you awake at night, the way injustice burns in your chest until you can barely breathe. I wanted you to know that you're not alone in this darkness. James stares at his phone, bewildered. A stranger responding to his most private vendetta with, understanding? James, I should have deleted it. Should have resent my original email to the right address and continued my war against Theodore. But something in her words stopped me cold. James finds himself typing a response. Vivian, I'm mortified you received that email. I'm not usually someone who spills his darkest thoughts to strangers. What happened to you 23 years ago? Vivian's apartment, same time. Vivian Hartwell, 67, sits in her modest but warm apartment, surrounded by photographs and paintings. Her silver hair catches the morning light as she reads James's response, a sad smile playing at her lips. Vivian, I'd been a widow for 5 years when I met Charles Beaumont. He was charming, sophisticated, everything my late husband wasn't. He courted me like I was 30 again, made me feel alive after years of loneliness. Vivian's fingers trace over a photograph of herself from decades ago, standing beside a handsome man in an expensive suit. Vivian, Charles claimed to be an art investor. Said he could help me sell my late husband's collection to secure my retirement. I was so grateful, so desperate to trust someone again, that I signed everything he put in front of me. Power of attorney. Asset transfers. Insurance changes. She picks up another photo, her standing beside several beautiful paintings. Vivian. 3 months later, Charles disappeared with everything. My husband's entire art collection, worth over $2 million. My savings. Even the deed to this apartment. The police said it was a civil matter. My lawyer said Charles had covered his tracks too well. Vivian turns back to her laptop and begins typing. James, I lost everything to a man named Charles Beaumont. He was a con artist who specialized in preying on lonely widows. By the time I realized what had happened, he'd vanished completely. I spent years trying to track him down, hiring investigators, following false leads. The anger nearly destroyed me. But I learned something important about revenge. James's apartment, continuous. James reads Vivian's response, his own vendetta suddenly feeling smaller, more petty. He types back. What did you learn about revenge? Vivian's response. That it's a poison you drink hoping the other person dies. I spent 15 years consumed by hatred for Charles, and it ate away at everything good in my life. I became isolated, bitter, paranoid. I pushed away friends, family, anyone who tried to help. The worst part. Charles was out there living his life, probably victimizing other women, while I withered away in my anger. James stares at the screen, feeling an uncomfortable recognition. Vivian's email continues. Then one day I realized I had a choice. I could keep letting Charles steal my present or I could reclaim my life. I started volunteering at a community center, teaching art classes to kids who'd aged out of foster care. I began painting again. Slowly, very slowly, I found peace. James. Over the next few weeks, Vivian and I exchanged emails almost daily. She told me about her art classes, her small victories in rebuilding her life. I found myself sharing things I'd never told anyone, not just about my father's death but about the loneliness, the way my quest for revenge had consumed everything else. Email exchanges. We see James and Vivian typing, their conversations growing deeper and more personal. James's email. I haven't dated anyone in 3 years. Every relationship falls apart because I can't think about anything except destroying Theodore. Vivian's response. I understand that obsession. But ask yourself, what would your father want for you? Revenge or a life worth living? James's email. Theodore's been sending me business proposals lately. He wants to partner with me, probably thinks he can manipulate me like he did my father. Part of me wants to use it against him. Vivian's response. Or maybe it's an opportunity for something else entirely. What if instead of destroying him, you found a way to reclaim what was yours? What if you could build something your father would be proud of? 6 weeks later, coffee shop. James sits nervously at a corner table, checking his phone repeatedly. The bell above the door chimes and Vivian enters. Elegant despite her simple clothes, her eyes kind but sharp with intelligence. Vivian. James. James. Standing awkwardly. Vivian. Thank you for agreeing to meet. This is surreal. Vivian. Settling into her chair. You're taller than I imagined. And you look exhausted. James. Laughing despite himself. 15 years of plotting revenge will do that to you. Vivian. I brought you something. She slides a small package across the table. James unwraps it to reveal a small oil painting. A sunrise over a city skyline. Vivian. I painted this after our first email exchange. It reminded me that even in the darkest night, morning eventually comes. But only if you're willing to stop staring into the darkness long enough to see it. James studies the painting, genuinely moved. James. It's beautiful. I can't accept this. Vivian. You can and you will. Now tell me, what have you decided about Theodore? James. Sighing. I met with him last week. He wants me to help him expand into European markets. Claims he's been trying to reconnect with me for years, that he regrets how things ended with my father. Vivian. Do you believe him? James. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter. You know what the strangest part is? Seeing him again, I realized he's just a man. Not the monster I'd built up in my head. Just a 70-year-old businessman who made terrible choices when he was younger. Vivian. What did you tell him? James. I said I'd consider it. But I have conditions. Theodore's office, 1 week later. Theodore Blackwood, 73, sits behind an imposing desk. Despite his age, he radiates the authority of someone accustomed to getting his way. James enters carrying a briefcase and the small painting Vivian gave him. Theodore. James. I'm so glad you reconsidered. This partnership could be incredibly lucrative for both of us. James. I'm not here about the partnership, Theodore. At least not the one you're thinking of. Theodore's smile falters slightly. James. I want to buy you out. Complete acquisition of Blackwood Industries. Name your price. Theodore. Laughing. James, you can't be serious. Even if you had that kind of capital. James. I do. James opens his briefcase, revealing stacks of documents. James. I've spent 15 years not just plotting revenge but building my own empire. 3 software companies, 2 manufacturing firms and a venture capital fund. All waiting to be consolidated under one umbrella. Your umbrella if you're willing to sell. Theodore's face goes pale as he flips through the documents. Theodore. This is, how did you? James. The same way you built your fortune, Theodore. Hard work, strategic thinking and capitalizing on opportunities. The difference is I didn't have to steal from family to do it. Theodore sets the documents down, his hands shaking slightly. Theodore. What do you want from me? James. I want you to tell me the truth about my father. All of it. And then I want you to help me build something better than what either of us had before. Theodore's office, continuous. Theodore moves to the window, staring out at the city skyline. Theodore. Your father was my best friend before he was my business partner. Did you know that? James. No. Theodore. We met in college. He was brilliant, visionary, everything I wanted to be. When we started the company, it was his ideas that made us successful. I was just better at the business side. Theodore turns back to James, his face heavy with regret. Theodore. When the board started questioning his leadership, I should have defended him. Instead, I saw an opportunity. I convinced myself I was saving the company, that I could run it better than he could. But the truth is I was jealous. Jealous of his brilliance, his integrity, the way people respected him. James. So you destroyed him. Theodore. I destroyed us both. Do you know what it's like to build an empire on the grave of your best friend? Every success felt hollow. Every achievement was tainted by what I'd done to get it. Theodore walks to a wall safe, retrieving a manila envelope. Theodore. I've carried this for 15 years, waiting for the right moment to give it to you. He hands James the envelope. Inside are the original partnership documents, bank records, and a handwritten letter. James. What is this? Theodore. Your father's will. The real one. He left everything to you, James. The original patents, the company shares, even a trust fund he set up. I've been managing it all these years, waiting for you to be ready. James's hands shake as he reads the documents. James. This says the company was always meant to be mine when I turned 35. Theodore. Your father knew you'd need time to find your own path first. He didn't want you to inherit his success. He wanted you to earn the wisdom to handle it. James looks up, tears in his eyes. James. You could have kept this hidden forever. Why no? Theodore. Because I'm dying, James. Cancer. 6 months, maybe less. And because you've already proven you're twice the man your father was, and 10 times the man I ever was. Vivian's apartment evening. James sits on Vivian's couch, still processing the day's revelations. Vivian prepares tea in her small kitchen. James. I don't know what to feel. Angry that he stole 15 years from me? Grateful that he finally told the truth? Sorry that he's dying? Vivian. Bringing him tea. Maybe you don't have to choose. Maybe the answer is all of those things at once. James. What would you do if Charles Beaumont walked through that door right now and offered to make things right? Vivian. Considering. I honestly don't know. But I know what I wouldn't do. I wouldn't let his presence steal another moment of peace from my life. James studies her face, seeing a strength he'd only glimpsed in their emails. James. You never told me, did you ever find him? Charles. Vivian is quiet for a long moment, then moves to her desk and retrieves a newspaper clipping. Vivian. 3 years ago. The obituaries section. Charles Beaumont, age 78, died of a heart attack in Phoenix. Survived by nobody. No wife, no children, no friends mentioned in the article. James. How did that make you feel? Vivian. I'd spent so many years imagining confronting him, and suddenly he was just gone. All that anger, all that planning, and he died alone in a hospital bed, never knowing or caring about the lives he'd destroyed. She looks at James with gentle eyes. Vivian. That's when I realized the best revenge isn't destroying your enemy. It's living so well that their actions become irrelevant to your happiness. Blackwood Industries, 3 months later. The nameplate on the building now reads, Delacroix Blackwood Enterprises. James stands in his father's old office, now renovated but still honoring the original design. Theodore, noticeably frielier but still dignified, enters carrying a box. Theodore. The last of your father's personal items. I thought you might want them before I... James. Before you start treatment. Theodore. Surprised. Treatment. James. Experimental therapy at Johns Hopkins. I've already made the arrangements. Consider it a signing bonus for our new partnership. Theodore stares at him, speechless. James. You were right about one thing, Theodore. I needed to find my own path first. But now I'm ready to honor what my father built while building something new. And I need someone who understands the mistakes we can't afford to repeat. Theodore. James, I don't deserve. James. Deserve has nothing to do with it. My father believed in second chances. So do I. Theodore sets down the box and extends his hand. James shakes it firmly. Theodore. Your father would be proud of the man you've become. James. I hope so. Because I'm about to make some changes around here. Delacroix Blackwood Enterprises, 6 months later. A ribbon-cutting ceremony is underway. A banner reads, Delacroix Blackwood Foundation, supporting artists and entrepreneurs. James stands at a podium addressing a small crowd. Vivian sits in the front row, beaming. James. When my father started this company, he believed business should serve the community, not the other way around. This foundation will provide grants to artists who've lost their work to fraud and low-interest loans to entrepreneurs from underserved communities. In the crowd, Theodore sits in a wheelchair, healthy but still recovering from treatment. He applauds weakly but proudly. James. But this foundation exists because of someone who taught me that the best way to heal from betrayal isn't revenge. It's building something beautiful from the wreckage. James looks directly at Vivian. James. Vivian Hartwell, would you join me up here? Vivian, surprised and emotional, makes her way to the stage. James. Vivian will be the foundation's first director of arts programs. Her experience both as an artist and as someone who's overcome tremendous adversity makes her uniquely qualified to help others rebuild their lives. The crowd applauds as Vivian takes the microphone, tears in her eyes. Vivian. 6 months ago I thought my story was over. I was a bitter old woman, living in the shadow of someone else's cruelty. Then a young man sent me an email by mistake. An email full of pain and rage that I recognized in my own heart. He looks at James. Vivian. What I learned from James is that our wounds don't have to define us. They can become the foundation for something greater. This foundation will help people transform their pain into purpose, their losses into legacy. Vivian's apartment evening. James helps Vivian pack paintings and art supplies into boxes. The apartment is mostly empty now, ready for her move to a larger space near the foundation offices. James. Are you sure about giving up this place? You've lived here for over 20 years. Vivian. This apartment was a prison I built from my own anger. It's time to live somewhere with room to grow. James picks up the painting she gave him that first day, the sunrise over the city. James. You know, I never thanked you properly for this. Vivian. For the painting? James. For saving my life. If you hadn't responded to that email, I would have destroyed Theodore and probably myself in the process. Vivian. Smiling. You saved mine too. I was teaching art classes, yes, but I was still living in the past. Working with you, building the foundation, it's given me a future again. James carefully wraps the painting. James. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I'd typed Theodore's email address correctly? Vivian. Never. Because I believe some mistakes are actually destiny in disguise. Delacroix Blackwood Enterprises, 1 year later. James sits in his office, now filled with both his father's photographs and Vivian's paintings. Theodore, looking healthier, enters with a cup of coffee. Theodore. The quarterly reports are in. Foundations helped over 200 artists and funded 50 new businesses. James. And the company? Theodore. Most profitable year in our history. Turns out doing good is good for business. Who knew? They share a laugh. Through the window they can see Vivian in the courtyard, teaching a painting class to a group of young adults. Theodore. He's remarkable. In another life I think your father would have loved her. James. In this life she saved his son. That seems like enough. James's computer chimes with a new email. He glances at it and smiles. James. Vivian's nominating me for some humanitarian award. Says I'm an inspiration to people who've overcome betrayal. Theodore. Are you an inspiration? James. Looking out at Vivian. I think we all are. Every day we choose forgiveness over revenge, building over destroying, hope over hatred. We become someone else's inspiration. Theodore nods, then heads for the door. Theodore. James. Thank you. For giving me the chance to be better than I was. James. Thank you for finally letting me be who I was meant to be. Fade out on. James watching Vivian teach her class, a small smile on his face. The painting of the sunrise hangs prominently on his office wall, catching the afternoon light. James. They say the best revenge is living well. But I learned something better. The best healing is helping others live well too. That mistyped email didn't just change my life. It taught me that sometimes our greatest mistakes become our most precious gifts. James. My name is James Delacroix. And this is how one wrong email address led me to the right life. The end.